oh, that's what's gonna happen in 10 years. They're gonna have Netflix remake, and they're just gonna remake the whole thing, and it's gonna be like nostalgia on nostalgia on nostalgia, like a Ouroboros of nostalgia.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the CEO and founder of Manga, Anime, and Gaming Association, Nick. But I hate to tell you this, Nick. That acronym's already been taken, so you're gonna have to fight them for it.
MGMAGA. Yeah, yeah. We we are.
They don't get passed just because you're down south, okay? They see you as the enemy. So good luck on that.
I don't know if Donald Trump's ever seen an anime.
I mean, granted, oh, there you go. There's your market. There's your in. You can make something like the Putin manga, which is
Like,
like I forget, like dictator likes to ride different animals or something like that. It's literally an isekai where before he's isekai, he ends up riding a tiger and like I think punches a missile or something like that, and that's how he gets isekai. And then he's
what
just like,
is
I'm gonna ride a dragon.
what is this? What is this manga that these kids are talking about? Why are they stealing my slogan? Why are they? What is going on? Manga. It sounds. I'm going to sue them. I, I've been talking with Jared for a while now, and because Jared is a closet anime fan, um, and he is going to put it on old Donnie's desk as soon as the time is right. He's told me this about he told me it'd be in about 2 weeks, about 3 weeks ago. So I'm really expecting it to happen any minute now. But yeah, so the MAGA is going to join with the other MAGA. The good thing is that I actually copyrighted this way back in 2014, right before Donnie T coined his term. So if we have to go to court, then I will probably unalive myself. And if that happens, then
I'll
you'll
pour one out for you.
you'll
Okay.
pour one out for me. And
I mean, you're on your own on this one, but I'll pour one out for you.
I'm a very
I'll find you a Google
uh,
substitute.
I'm a very
And
just know that I am a very good swimmer and I have no desire to unalive myself. So if that happens, you will know to run away, run very far away, Joe.
all right. Well, the also the manga that I was talking about is The Ride on King,
Oh yeah,
and
that
yeah,
Nick.
it's
We
I've
had
been
an we had an episode named Nick the Ride On King, right?
I believe so, and that makes perfect sense. So it comes full circle again. Uh, so yeah, good luck on that endeavor. I most definitely want to see how this turns out, but not anytime soon. All right. Well, we usually talk about games, anime, and stuff like that. So right now, we've been playing a certain game. A little late compared to all the buzz around it, but still a very good thing. So, Nick, what have we been playing?
So we have been playing a little game called Dispatch. So I had seen this game and I was like, and I heard the buzz about it, like, oh, this is so good or whatever. And I was like, well, how good can it really be? And I kind of found out some more about it, and I was like, it's so. But I did want to make sure that it was all out before starting to play it because it is an episodic game and it's not too terribly long. But basically, this is a game from the remnants of Telltale, which went under a while ago. I can't remember exactly how long ago, but the remnants of Telltale and Critical Role, and I think probably some other studio is involved, but those two are the ones that stick out in my mind. And just a little bit about what this game is. It's a Telltale style game, so it's a story with interactive prompts and some light gameplay. Um, but it's about a world in which there's a lot of superheroes, and you are playing a character that was a superhero and but has had to take a hiatus more or less, and so he goes to work at a dispatch type of like a what's the word I'm trying to think of, like a call center, so that he dispatches heroes and makes sure that they're like coordinated and organized and stuff like that. And so that's like the gameplay, which sounds like it's not really fun at all, but it's written really well, and they do make the gameplay like really they do make the gameplay match what you're trying to do. I had never played any Telltale games. I have seen some of them be played like on Twitch and stuff, which I think is, compared to most games, going to give you a pretty good idea of what is going on. Um, and there are some things that I know about Telltale games from listening to video game podcasts for years. Um, and I think that this game solves a lot of those problems, but I'll kind of get to the main point of what I thought about this game before you jump in, Joe. But I really thought this game was really good. I was expecting it to be good. I was expecting it to be all right, you know, with all the buzz around it. But it had me laughing pretty good and had me invested in the story. It's a light story, you know. It's not you know, best picture Oscar worthy or anything like that, but it's definitely really well written. And I did enjoy. There's not a lot of gameplay, but what is there is really good and fits the size of the game pretty much perfectly. So yeah, I really like this game a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So when it comes to Dispatch, so I do believe I think Telltale still exists in some form or another.
Okay.
I honestly haven't kept up with them since their initial big Fallout closure because it was really cruddy situation. Um, People like they were literally taking on new jobs in order to help pay for the current jobs that were going or like
They were
licensing.
basically they basically got on the plane with a job and got off the plane and found out the company had folded.
Yeah,
That's,
people moved and like
yeah.
moved and relocated for this, and yeah, so it was really crummy situation. But as far as like the look of this game and the feel of this game, so yes, if you played any of the other choose your own adventure style Telltale games, it fits right in there. Very few games play the way or look and play the way this does, as far as um, it looks like you're watching uh, like a cartoon, like Invincible or something like that, and it plays seamless. Uh,
Mhm.
like some of the Telltale games, they were stylized in such a way that this isn't you were enjoying watching it, but at the same time, it's not what you normally watch on TV. It kind of reminds me of like the old Dragon's Lair kind of game style, where like, oh yeah, this is you know fluid, and that was really unique at the time, and you felt like you're playing a cartoon back then. But then the more recent, more modern one would be like South Park: Stick of Truth,
Hmm.
because when you're playing, I remember first playing that game, being like, it feels like I'm playing the episode, like the
That,
episode side by side in
yeah,
my brain. It feels like I am just controlling the episode,
yeah.
and
I
that's
was
what.
amazed the first time I saw that. I was like, I can't believe that they have made a game that is literally just like an episode of South Park.
So when it comes to Dispatch, there's not any. There are some. All right, so the gameplay itself, if you're not in a choose your own adventure kind of moment where you're picking your own dialogue under stress of a timer, you are doing quick time events, which you can opt out of during the cutscenes,
Oh yeah.
and they're really forgiving. As far as I don't really think if you fail, it really hurts you at all. Because some of them might come up real quick and you might miss it. Other ones stay ridiculously long. As far as like time slows down,
Mhm.
but also you can preemptively hit. It's in the opening cutscenes. It was like X and right trigger and thumbstick.
Mhm.
I think either thumbstick works. to hold and control your movement. And as far as the X goes, I know I hit square at one point just because I accidentally bumped it while aiming for the X, and I was still able to hit my X on mark.
Mhm.
You can also hit early because I've played the first couple chapters multiple times, which I'll get into later,
Mhm.
and you can without penalty. So it's not it's a
Right.
press X when the circle gets small enough into the zone, and when it's in the zone, then it activates, and you have between that and when it's completely shrunk, or else it times out. So there's a couple sequences when you're attacking or in a fight, and it did that, and it didn't really seem to affect anything. Like, okay, uh, the other bit was, like I said, I after playing it like a second or third time, I'm like, okay, well, I know this is going to be a triple attack, and so I'm just like, I'm curious, what happens? Just start smashing X, and sure enough, the moment it pops up, it closes in, no problem. So it's pretty much a fail safe type of thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to deal with that, you can, like I said, opt out in the accessibility options to just auto, just so you can play and watch. Because that was the first time I was playing this with a friend, they were watching it. I'm like, "Wow, that looks really cool." I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of cool, but I'm stuck in a like Elite Beat Agents mode where you're watching this fun thing happen on the screen, but my eyes are hyper focused on whatever button prompts come in, so I'm not really getting to sit back and enjoy and take it all in." It wasn't until I let someone else play the opening episode, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I didn't realize." They went underneath a girder and the way that combo attack happened. I completely missed that. So, uh, if you want to sit back and relax, that's fine. The only accessibility thing that they didn't have, which is common in these kind of games, is like extra long timer for other decisions because
Mm.
sometimes if you're a slow reader, you might just be able to read two or three options, and by the time you get to the third option, timer might be almost gone, and then you panic attack, and you just have to hit whatever comes to mind. So it kind of makes it doesn't ruin the situation, but it does make it a little more annoying. And you can't just pause. If you pause the screen, the background goes blurry. So you can't like pause, cheat that way and pause it and then look at your options and then go into it. Um, the reason why I'm bringing all of these up is usually I wouldn't necessarily play with or need those options. But the way I played the game was I screen shared it with a friend in a
Mm.
different state. And so we were screen sharing, and I know after playing other games in the past via screen share, there is a slight lag. A 1 or 2 second lag makes a big difference when you have like I don't know, 6 second timer, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
And you have to. Yeah.
So I'm waiting for my friend to give their opinion at the very last possible moment, and they may or may not say something like when the timer's almost extinguished.
Mm.
And so sometimes they'll say something, and I'm like, sometimes we're on the same wavelength, and I'll just have my finger hovered over. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is what they're gonna pick, and then like they will say it, and I'm like, boom, got it. Other times, they panic or they say something last minute. They're like, this, and then I'm like, sorry, dude. I was already committed to pressing something else because I like the timer, and that's the big problem. If I was able to buffer that just by an extra couple seconds, it would make it really. I don't need it frozen. But other people, they would probably prefer to have it weighted. I know that's taking away from the intended gameplay, but other times people have a hard time dealing with that kind of stress, and they don't want to. Making the decision is stressful enough for some people,
Mhm.
adding the timer onto it doesn't necessarily make it any more enjoyable. And that's kind of how I feel about the other gameplay portion of this, which I really enjoy. So in a game called Dispatch, where you're playing a hero dispatcher, guess what? You dispatch heroes like a 911 operator or something like that, which is going to make people think 911 operators are way cooler than they really are. But it's not. That job is not as exciting as you would think. So uh, you get to see the scenarios that pop up. You're essentially a security company, and based off of the people who are subscribed to you, different scenarios. They're like, hey, there's um, there's a riot breaking out, or hey, there's a fire happening. Different scenarios. They'll call for, and I think it might be also slightly based off of the person calling it in and their like I don't know tier level. But also based off of the difficulty of the mission. You'll have you can put anywhere from 1 to 4 people of your crew, And after each time you call someone to respond to an incident, you then have to wait for them to make it back to base. And there's a cooldown on each person. Each person has their own stats. It's essentially strength, defense. I think they call it vigor.
Mhm.
You have speed, charisma, and intelligence. So based off of that, you're trying to pick and choose the right person for the right job, and you can then do combinations of people to either cover for each other's weaknesses or double up on a strength. Certain people have synergy, so they're friends, and so they actually work better together, which increases your stats. So depending on how much is required of the situation, what was going to happen is if you can get like 90% of there is a RNG element, which makes sense because it's a critical role
Mm.
funded where you could still fail. There's actually trophies for certain ones, like hey, getting I think it's like 70 or 75% success rate percentage, but you still fail because it's the way they do it is there's like a puck that randomly bounces around the stats that are needed, and if your stats of your heroes overlap what is needed and that's where the puck stops, you succeed. But if it goes out of bounds, that means you failed. And there's it's one of those things that it's a nitpick because there's very this game overall I really like, but the few nitpicks things are with the dispatch part, because what they'll do is they'll try to make it tense, and as the puck starts to slow down, and if it's right on the border it'll zoom in. Problem is the puck barely moves. Like it's not like it's bouncing forever. It's like, oh yeah, it's almost there. It zooms in real quick and then it just stops. Like, well, why
Yeah.
do you even zoom in? I didn't even
The,
need you to zoom in because it didn't travel far enough to make it like nail biting. It's just like you're zooming in and you're done. Okay, I either succeeded or failed. You could have just cut.
the puck is BS. Like there are times whenever it's bounced like a lot. There's times when it's bounced and it was like on its slowest. It was going its slowest and it bounces against a wall and then continues at the same speed and bounces out of the zone on basically on purpose. It's like we've already rolled the RNG. We've already decided that you're not going to get it. And so we're just going to make the physics of this continue on beyond what would like actually happen, like the way by its own rules, what should actually happen. I mean, there's just some like RNG kind of BS that like happens in there. But all in all, it's a it's a good little system. I think that the vigor was the hardest for me to guess at. So the game, like you said, it gives you like you'll get a caller who says, "Hey, we need this," and they'll explain the situation. And from the words they use, they give you keywords, and those keywords you have to guess apply to which hero. So it's not like we need a hero with a lot of vigor and like attack power. No, they're going to say we need a hero that needs to beat these people up. So they might highlight like beat up, and we need someone who's going to save people, and that's like vigor. Or we need someone who's going to investigate. Okay, that's brain. So there's several times where I didn't really understand what vigor actually meant because I thought it was like because like I thought it was like strictly defense, but it ended up being a little bit broader than that. Like anytime that you needed to save somebody or you needed to not hurt somebody, like that is part of it as well. So
I think you're really wrong about that, and this is why it's confusing because it doesn't make it clear. It doesn't. They only show you after you've committed
right.
with your hero, and you're rolling the dice. It'll show you kind of the emblem that you need. So like intelligence will have a brain. It's like charisma has a speech bubble. So it'll tell you the keyword or whatever, and like or the options you get to pick for certain things. Because sometimes they'll say like they'll have a interruption like, "Hey, this instance, something else came up. Do you want to uh or like there's a bomb. All right, well, do you want to try to throw the bomb? Do you want to try to endure it, like, or do you want to try like, something else?" And based off the keywords, you can kind of figure it out most of the time, but sometimes it's like a little bit blurry. uh and as far as like defense goes, that is a weird one because if it's like, hey, we don't want you to hurt people, Well, then a lot of times it's, you got to read the context for the other mission, but it's communication. Usually it's like a
Yeah.
charisma thing, because that way they want you to talk this situation down.
Right.
If it says clearly you have to defend somebody to defend a client, then it's like, okay, that's clearly vigor. But one of them was just a stupid, hey, we need a bunch of people to move some boxes for us. We're like, that's what you guys do, right?
That was probably the worst offender for me. Yeah, that one.
Because I'm like, okay, so you need strength, and then they're like, then it's like, no, you need vigor, essentially like defense and stamina, but you need speed, and I'm like, you jerks, that completely threw me off. And then there's so
It was rare. It was mostly at the beginning. Toward the end, I had a good understanding, like from episode really 4 on, which there's only 8 episodes, but from episode 4 on, I was like, okay, I understand what's going on here. They also give you the ratings for how you did. For part of it's like what your decisions that you made versus what other people did, and so and that a lot of time is like, well, that's just like what I wanted, so there's not really anything good or bad about it. But then they rate you compared to everybody else in the actual performative aspects of it, like on the missions essentially. And for the first mission in the first episode, it said I did better than like 0.1% of players.
that's
um,
all right.
and I was like, "What in the world?" I did do pretty terrible, but by episodes 7 or 6 and 8, I think I did better than 80%, and then on episode 7, I think I did better than 60%. So by then I was like, but those ones were much broader, had a lot more bells and whistles, a lot more things going on. Oh yeah, there's also hacking in this. There's also like a interesting little hacking mini game that ended up being pretty interesting. It's
Which is weird, because that has a timer on it, and that there's in the option menu to stop the timer on that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you'll give me infinite time on the hacking, but you won't give me infinite time, or at least some extra buffer time for the choosing the answers. Um, so my other real complaint about this game is the uh, the actual choosing your missions. Going from because you have a row of characters you could pick from the roster of characters on the bottom, and then you have the different missions that pop up. So you at the time you're clicking on the new pop-ups, getting the information you need, but you don't necessarily want to commit right away to the first one. Sometimes you want a few of them to pop up so you don't accidentally give someone who's more optimal for a situation. Because I've had that happen a number of times where like I picked someone, oh, they'll fit this spot good, and then the new mission pops up that is literally specifically for the person I just sent. Like they are without a doubt the most optimal. Where there's like a cult person, so you can send one of your people, specifically to handle the cult,
Right.
and that works out really well. So yeah, it kind of like stings that way. You're like, all right, that's fine. And it feels like it's a lot of RNG, and that's
Hmm.
because it's so out of control. I mean, sometimes they'll just be like, yeah, guess what? This person's not optimized for it, but this person is just going to jump into the mission with you. You get stuck with them. Granted, as you start putting your people out there, they start leveling up, and you can start controlling their stats better. You can make them more well-rounded, or if you know who they synergize really well with,
Hmm.
you can kind of have them cover each other's flaws better. You can make more specialized units essentially. But like I said, my problem with the game is going from selecting the different locations and going
Yes.
back down. When you go looking at something and you back out, it doesn't leave you right there. It stings you all the way back down to the bottom, and then you have to hit up. But when you hit up, it doesn't necessarily go back to where you were. It could go anywhere on the map. So sometimes you might pop up if a new mission went up to the right. You might go up to the right or to the left, and you have to then navigate. It's
So
irritating because I've missed a handful of missions based off of just waiting to the last minute or trying to click into it, and my cursor isn't like I'm hitting left,
right.
and it's like from a different mission, it's not going the way I want it to,
Yeah.
and here I am like almost cursing at my screen because it's
Dude, I've like almost threw my controller like 20 times in this game because and there was twice I where something went wrong. It was like it was like 2 or 3 things in a row that went wrong, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. And I would press pause and check the last time it was saved, and I would just back, like if it was like less than 5 minutes, I would just back out and go. And I'm like, okay, I'm not dealing with this because the game. I think it's a problem with the port. I imagine I haven't played, but I imagine that on PC when you have a freaking mouse, that it's a lot easier to click those missions on
Yes.
time. And so I'm playing on PS5, and so like there's points where you're hovering over one mission, it's counting down, so you're about to lose time on that. But you have like the right hero or some or several heroes or any heroes who are
Or
coming.
you're waiting for your hero to cool down,
That's what I'm
and
saying.
you're
Like,
waiting for
yeah,
them.
yeah, they're,
Yeah.
they're, they're coming off of rest, and or you're, or sometimes something else, but usually it's rest. You're waiting for them, and so you're like, okay, I can tell that I will be able to beat that timer, but there's like 2 missions, and you have to like go, okay, I know I can do it, but I have to do it really quickly, and you'll waste like 3 seconds trying to get the cursor on the right mission with the right hero. I I let that go on like 2 or 3 occasions, but there was one toward the end where I was like, "F this BS. This is ridiculous." And I just started over. It's like, okay, I know what's coming, and I'm just gonna do it because like I know that's what it is. But that is to me the very worst thing about this game. And I think it's probably handled by PC. And so if you play it, anyone listening, if you play it, just know that going in. And I would say just don't be afraid to go to reload your save and stuff like that.
So when you reload, you will end up reloading the entire. So you may be at the end of the dispatch portion. So the game kind of breaks itself up into the looking at the computer screen, doing your
Yeah.
dispatching mission with your units, but then there'll be the dialogue portions. And then, but if you're at the towards the end of the dispatch portion and something screws up, or if you're frustrated because of a situation, yeah. So when you reload, you will reload that entire segment, which could be, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes or something, probably 10 minutes.
So what there
Uh,
was one where it was like it was 19 minutes, and because I had messed something up, and it was like 19 minutes, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go back and do that again. But yeah, so that's the other thing is they really should. I don't know that there should be a little bit more of a break in there or something because it's not a perfect system. I'll say that.
Yeah, but but having come off the old Telltale games, I hated those games for their mechanic. The engine, like so
I was gonna
everyone loved The
I was
Walking
gonna talk
Dead.
about that. Yeah.
Story was amazing and everything like that. I remember I played the first couple missions so many times, or the first couple episodes, because so much crap went wrong with my save file porting over from one episode to the other.
Mhm.
My friend was like, "Oh, I have no problem." I'm like, "Dude, this thing is jank, juddery, and my save files are messed up. Like, I chose this, and it's clearly the guys are acting like I just stabbed them in the back, or." And it's just like that is not what I did. I don't understand why this is so broken. And like I said, a buddy of mine, every time they had no problems, or they just were too dumb to realize what the problem was. I don't know. They're a good friend of mine. I can call them dumb if I want to. But they also think it always, if I have a problem with the game, they usually never have a problem with the game, technical wise.
Mm.
And I'm like, you suck.
You do
I'm
have
very
bad RNG though.
yeah, and that's it. That's in a game with RNG. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy how you fail a 70% success rate, but you do because I got that trophy. I'm like, and it's just I actually had like
I got
75
that
or
one.
something like that. Yeah, so I was just like, man, you. But the other thing is because everything's timed, uh, and it's really it's supposed to be nail biting. It's actually a fun dispatching mini game thing to play. It's actually enjoyable, but there's so much dialogue that you also kind of want to sit and wait because if you
Yeah.
you click on the actual dispatch itself. They're like you can just read what's needed of you, but it's not transcribed one to one.
No.
So there's someone like there's a sewage leak, and there's two situations, and like one of them there's like sewage on the beach, and the audio recording of them goes on for a little bit longer, like a little bit earlier, and then the actual transcribed part is kind of like the latter portion. and like you get the gist of it what you need, but it's just like the full flavor text. Or then there's a lot of banter between back and forth between people. So either when you're clicking into a mission, sometimes people will have chatter about the mission you're clicking into, like, "Hey, how many times do we have to help this guy?" Or something like that, or and but if they're bantering back and forth, and then you click into the mission, you won't hear that mission of or that banter that person wants because the other two people are in the middle of talking.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's it makes sense that they're not interrupting each other, or because it'd really be broken otherwise if
Yeah.
you're just cutting each other off. So
So,
it's like you kind of want to sit and wait, listen, enjoy it because it's a fun listen, but also then you're running out of time and you're screwing yourself over later
yeah.
on.
Yeah, I found myself listening to longer whenever I had some extra time and stuff like that. I think that all these kind of things that we're having a problem with, besides literally, the PS5 port, issue versus PC, is that a lot of these things are probably, I mean, you could speak to this better, but are probably handled by replays. So like it's kind of hard. You're kind of geared to mess up. You're kind of geared to not really know what's going on because there is, multiple paths that probably loop back around to each other, but for a while they go around different places and they probably want you to replay the game to get, all those extra things. And if you know what's coming and you've already heard this dialogue, well, you can go for that dialogue and stuff like that next. The other thing is I wanted to talk about the Telltale engine because I'm glad you brought that up. Like I remember hearing on podcasts years ago that that the engine was that the Telltale engine essentially is partly, as far as I could tell, what kind of ruined the company. It just made making games so incredibly hard. I heard that they did not have a physics engine in that, or like there was no physics in that engine. So like there was a scene where a developer for a Telltale game wanted to make a ball roll across the floor, and there wasn't a way to do that in the engine. like what? Are you kidding me? Like it's a video game. Um, so he had to like spend an ungodly amount of hours uh, making that animate like just the way like he wanted it to be, and it was like there was no way around it. Like it had to be that way. So like it was kind of a nice thing for me to see this game be pretty much jank free. I mean, I felt like that there's things that I don't necessarily love, but they were definitely decisions that the game developers made. And they were decisions that they were like, well, this is the way that it is, and it's working the way that it's supposed to. Like I could tell that it's like, well, maybe I don't agree on certain points, but I can tell that it's the way that they want it to be at the very least. So yeah, that like it was nice to see the Telltale finally get a nice engine.
Yeah, it really is a step up is what it is, and it plays the way that the old engine should have. The other problem is when they created the Telltale engine for originally, it was one of those things that like, all right, it's not perfect, but it works. But instead of improving the engine, they're like, we're just gonna license this out and run this into the ground. It's like I run a delivery service and the vehicle I have is not the newest. In fact, it's like a decade old, but it works. And as my delivery service works, I'm going to continue running this vehicle into the ground and instead of buying and upgrading to a newer vehicle, getting a fleet. No, I'm just going to run this thing and keep on loading more and more stuff on until I can't handle it anymore. And then that's exactly kind of the old Telltale engine
Yeah, I
concept.
think that those are probably poor business decisions that were made, and it might have just been the way the corner they painted themselves into. Like they probably just barely had a good enough engine to just barely make the game that just barely sold enough to keep them making the next game that could barely run, and it was just a couch of like a couch. It was like a house of matchsticks that just they couldn't really get out from under, and that's ultimately what led to their downfall. I do want to say that like the best thing about this game to me is I mean like the animation is pretty good and stuff like that, but the place this game shines is the writing. This game, it, it, if it wasn't written by voice actors, it most certainly was written for voice actors to shine. I feel like there's a lot of really good actors in this game, especially because it's from Critical Role. But there's so many good, quippy but good dialogue options in this game, and then just the script itself, like things that you don't get to choose, is really great throughout. I mean, I was laughing out loud at a lot of the stuff that was in this game. And it was just a huge amount of fun, like all the way through. Like I was probably really from the opening of the first episode, I thought it was one thing. In the very opening of the first episode, uh, I thought it was one thing, and then something happened, and I was like, wait, that's a different perspective than I thought it was supposed to be. And I was like, and then it backs up and it shows you kind of what's going on, and it shows you
Oh,
more
dude,
what's,
that very opening. Oh yeah, yeah.
dude, yeah,
Because it looks all right. So no, no, it's one of those things that like it very much you think you're looking at it thinking it's one thing, um, and then you realize the camera is not where you think the camera is. And it's just because it's such a cool little bit,
yeah.
so that's why we're not
It,
spoiling it for you. It's just it's not a spoiler, but it's also it robs you of that joy of just
no,
seeing that
yeah,
one thing.
yeah, and
But yeah, no,
it
totally, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
it's just a moment. It was just in that moment that I was like, okay, somebody freaking thought about this. Somebody was like, okay, we want to make a good game, and we are going to not waste any bit of this, so that the very first thing you get is interesting, even when that scene by itself really shouldn't be that interesting. We're gonna freaking make it interesting, and I think they do that throughout the rest of it. I haven't really thought about it well enough to really see if there was any major plot holes or any kind of things like, well, they would do this or they would do that or whatever. But on its face, I really enjoyed it. I really loved all the characters. Even the ones that you're not supposed to like are very likable in the right kind of way and the wrong kind of way. Um, really well written game. Just really good, I thought.
So, real quick, we've been saying Telltale, but it's just to be clear, it's the former members, the veterans of that from who made it's Ad Hoc Studios. I just want
Okay.
to make sure that that's listed as it's Ad Hoc.
See, I was
Um,
pretty sure it wasn't actually Telltale. I thought it was just some of the members or whatever.
yeah, so it's Ad Hoc. They some of these guys came off of Telltale. They did like The Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, stuff like that. And like most famous, I think out of theirs is like Borderlands, the Tales of the Borderlands. It's you may not like the normal franchise, but Telltale's take on it was amazing. And like I said, everything they've done in this was just excellent. The You're playing it for the dialogue, you're playing it for the experience. It's one of those things that as much as you'd like to see every outcome, I'm trying to do my best despite playing it. All right, I'm gonna get into this in a second. Despite going through the first two episodes, three different times,
Yeah.
yes. So, well, you want to just kind of one run it, right? You should love it or hate your decision, not knowing what it is, or maybe if you panicked or whatever, just stick with what you choose and try to make it to the end. You make some quote unquote hard choices, or at least some permanent choices, and it's fun to kind of see that unfold. The the other thing I'm going to give a huge shout out to is the music. I absolutely love the music in this one. It's really good. It's atmospheric. It plays a lot of impact, especially early on. Uh, I was playing this mostly with headphones on. So the way I played the game first, and I have mentioned it was I was playing with a friend from a different state. We were screen sharing, and that is the experience. I was trying to let them uh, we play a bunch of these kind of games together. So we like the choosing your adventure style game, and so I was letting them try to give most of their orders or like their requests in, and unfortunately, it doesn't give us enough time to debate. Being like, no, we should go with this, but I'm like, all right, fine. So At one point early on, you have a choice to make a move to kiss someone or not, and then
Mm.
they're like, "No, we just met," and I'm like, and then I use that I clicked what they wanted, but at the same time I retorted, I'm like, "That's not based off your personal experience." I'm like, "You are a hypocrite," you know, and that's and then I called them out for that, and then they're like, "Yeah, okay," but it's just like, or they thought of an answer. One of the questions you have, you're at a bar at one scene, and you see you have strong alcohol just at one point in front of you, and someone else walks up to you. And the moment I saw the cut glass there, I'm yelling, "Alcohol to the face." It wasn't even a choice for like the next, I don't know, couple batches of dialogue. But
Yeah.
eventually, when it happened, there was a choice: ice water or like alcohol. And my friend's like, "It's like ice water," and I was just like, "I already told you I was doing alcohol to the face before this was an option because it's just because you saw it coming." And so I chose alcohol to the face. And then they're like, "Oh, I thought you were just going to ignore them and drink the thing." And I'm like, "No, it was clearly meant to be an assault."
Yeah.
Uh, so that was kind of my take. I am assuming you did alcohol to the face as well.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
yeah, I was like, okay, bearing this in mind, looking at the situation, that is what is called for here. Because I know physics, because I know how chemistry works. Yeah.
well, yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. It was funny because later on you see the same person in the next episode with singed eyebrows
Yeah.
because of the alcohol. Well, all right. Slight spoiler for the alternate. Because I've already spoiled that much. I'll spoil the water choice because the playthrough number 2 of the first 2 episodes was playing with my spouse. Playing with my spouse more like I gave them the controller and I sat with them,
Mhm.
and let them mostly pick, choose everything. If they had any questions or something, I'd answer it. But I wanted to go through that experience with them to see what they would pick. Uh, they chose, uh, so one, she instantly chose to drop the person in the very beginning, just drop them. And I'm like, oh, was not expecting that. And that outcome was pretty great. And they chose, they chose to punt opposed to stomp, and you may or may not know what that is later. And that we picked stomp originally, so I got to see the other outcome. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fun.
Mhm.
Um, they chose water. They chose the ice water, and it's hilarious because the guy then gets angry, then tries to punch you, but slips on the wet floor and proceeds to smash into the bar with their teeth, knocking out a tooth and just cold clocked out. And I'm like, that's great. And
It's
knowing
almost better.
yeah, it
But yeah,
is. I
yeah,
was like, wow, you win-win. And then but I'm like, that explains the dialogue later. There's dialogue option later where you can see like things got heated up or something, or that someone slipped.
mhm,
So okay, so that those options are safe for no matter what you pick.
yeah.
Um, but it was just funny because like then they're missing the tooth the next scene. I'm like, that's hilarious. I just love that they incorporate a fun response to either, and that's because when my friend mentioned, hey, I thought maybe they were just going to ignore and drink the water. That's what my wife thought. My wife thought that they were going to just ignore them and drink the water. And I'm like, how did you not think you were going to throw it in their face? It's a bar scene.
I think yeah, because you and me have one way that we think about it, and they both clearly have a different way that they were thinking about it. So
Yeah,
that's
we're
just
obviously
interesting.
aggressors, and we're obviously just jerks, and they're not. They like they're the sunny side up crew. But I mean, bless their hearts for being so innocent, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
so like I said, the options of it are really fun. Then the third time I'm playing through it was just for myself because I'm not gonna mess with their saves, but also I got to choose what I wanted to do. And because it was only the first 2 episodes, there's not a whole lot, but there was a certain path that I wanted to pick.
Hmm.
Because the first like, 'cause more or less I was playing with my friends, letting them control most of their decisions. And the ones that, the few decisions, there's only a few decisions that actually matter. Uh, a lot of it's just like the water or alcohol scene. They both get you to the same end, but they just change a little bit of the outside appearance, and that's kind of how I felt. But if you want to, there is a like a romance interest in this, and you can
Mm.
choose kind of how you play that. And so based off of like certain decisions, or if you want to uh, there's certain key things like did you pick Sonar or did you pick Coupe? You
So yeah,
know,
spoilers for that. There. So that. So
you could just say the name of who you could just say the name and let it be at that if you
okay.
don't want to spoil.
So I did, but I want to explain a little bit of it because I was this something I wanted to get to as well. Um, uh, Playing this game, I didn't really have an idea of what I was going to do, but as decisions kind of popped up, I kind of decided that what I wanted to do was play a consistent character, and so it started. So I started to interpret the story one way that made me go like, okay, this is not really what I feel like is going to be the more interesting option. But it is the option that I feel like this character, how I've played them so far, what they would do. And I wanted to keep Sonar, but instead, but like based on what was going on in that moment, um, and the way that my character was being played, I was like, yeah, he's the one who has to go. And so I end up not keeping him. But it still ended up being all right. But like the lines and stuff, like the he was a more interesting character in a lot of ways, and his voice actor is a famous YouTuber, Moist Critical. Um, uh, and his stuff is very. I mean, it's pretty hard not to see that guy's face whenever Sonar's talking, but his lines are really good. So I
That's
was like,
why I chose to get rid of him because I could not like other people's voices. I've heard them. Some of the famous people you hear, like Laura Bailey or something like that.
well, they
I've heard,
disguise their voices too.
but I've also heard them so often that it's okay. I'm not
Yeah.
going to really be upset. And the lead, being Aaron Paul, like I did not, I would have never guessed it was them based off of their voice.
I forgot that it was him until there's a couple parts. Like most of the time, he doesn't sound like Aaron Paul or like Jesse from Breaking Bad most of the time. But there are some times where he gets a little bit more animated and that comes out. And the first time that happened, I was like, wait a second. I know that. Oh, yeah, Aaron Paul's in this. And that's kind of when a lot of it started coming back to me. But yeah, like Sonar, because that guy he's kind of had dabbled in acting, but he's not like a sorry, he's just not a voice actor. He's not like a really good voice actor. So he can say the lines and he can deliver them, but he can't really hide his voice very much. So yeah, that was took you out of it. But I did like the lines and I like the character more. But
See,
I just
I
had to
didn't
go
realize
with it.
it was him, and so because I wasn't thinking of him as his other characters, or a lot of the other voice actors. I know them from so many other things that I don't really relate to them.
Yeah.
But that was the thing is Sonar being Moist Critical. Like I didn't. I just actually it's funny because my friend, like I mentioned, like it's like I actually couldn't remember Moist Critical. I just remembered his channel being like Penguin Zero,
Yeah.
and I was just like, so I mentioned that, and my friend's like, huh? And I'm like, it's not. It's like it's the other guy who's not Asmongold. It's like
Yeah.
how like. I'm like, he goes, well, it's like the guy. He has like long hair and like little and some facial. I'm like, that's also Asmongold, but no, it's not him. It's just
Mm.
like, and then they look it up and they're like, it's like Moist Critical. I'm like, yeah, Penguin Zero. Like, and they're like, huh? So I'm like, all right.
Got to catch
It's
you up
funny
on
because
this stuff, man.
the way our friend knew my friend intersected at one angle, I intersected at another. We both had the right target, but we just completely. It was just funny. The so I got rid of sort of also at the time my playthrough is uh Coupe was the one I was using more often during that segment. Like I
Coupe.
happened to be yeah.
Yeah.
So like I was using them more often, so they were just and I just was not liking the gimmick. Like it wasn't working for me for Sonar.
Sonar's is
Uh
hard. Yeah.
so that's but at the same time there was and then the dialogue is hilarious. The Chase, the character who plays Chase, which is Jeffrey Wright,
Mm-hmm.
um, who I will always remember in my brain the first time seeing him from Golden, not Golden, Casino Royale. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Casino Royale. Yeah, and that's Fame. And I was just like, but every time they spoke was just like a chuckle moment or a straight up laugh, like legitimately laugh out loud. But yeah, the
Yeah, a lot
humor,
of
the
good
writing,
lines. Yeah.
so many good ones, and yeah, it's thoroughly enjoyable. I absolutely like it. I'm only in episode 4 right now because once again, I played through the
Mhm.
first 2, 3 times, and what I found out is you can do is you can actually just straight up there's like 5 slot at least 5 save slots, but you can copy a previous file and move it down. But because most of the games that I experienced up until that point were decisions made by other people, mostly by them, so I chose to just strictly go playing the way I play it, and yeah, once this game is, I also think it's the right thing to do to wait for it to all come out because I would have been super annoyed having to wait because it's just that good. And they seem to be really nailing the connected storylines. Um, we will spoil the crap out of this later, for like game of the year talk probably.
Yeah.
Um,
This is definitely going to come out more, and then the gloves will come off at that time for sure.
all right. Well, yeah, that's pretty much what we've been playing. And to be fair, it's not a very long game in the grand scheme of things when you're
Yeah,
not replaying.
I mean, your playthrough is going to take longer because, well, I guess it depends on how it's calculated, but your playthrough, you're going to have played more. But my playthrough ended up taking 9 hours. I had a little bit of idle time in there, but that holds true with what how long to beat. I think had was like 9 hours for main plus sides.
Yeah, that feels about the right clip because I feel like it was around an hour per episode, give or take some here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Okay, then. Well, despite what we've been playing, what have you been watching? There's something you want to get off your chest.
Yeah. So, uh, Stranger Things season 5 episodes 1 through 4 came out. So I watched that, and yeah. So there's a lot of things surrounding Stranger Things to dislike. The way that Netflix has kind of handled I was giving them a lot of grief for how long it had been between seasons, but then I looked it up and it's like, well, the last one was in like middle and late 2022, so it's not really been all that long. Probably a little bit, still maybe a little bit too long, but not all that long. So I
Too
still
long for people playing children.
it's a long time for people playing children. I mean, a lot of the kids. I mean, one of them is 21 and is married and has a child, has had a child, already. So it's getting harder to pretend that they're in high school. So there's that stuff. The way that Netflix has decided to release it, basically over the course of 3 months, Thanksgiving, and then a little bit for Christmas, and then a little bit like on like New Year's. So you basically have to be signed up to Netflix for 3 months in a row so that you can forget about it. Um, you know, and just let it auto subscribe. That's what they're going for. That stuff is annoying to me. I hate that aspect of it. Um, and then I started to watch the show with that in my head, kind of turning against the show, in a lot of ways. The first episode's like an hour and 15 minutes, probably. That's, I think, including credits, so probably like an hour 9, hour 7, something like that. And the first 40 to 45 minutes of the first episode back, I was like, oh no, I forgot. Oh man, I don't really like this because it's all, it's all like reintroducing you to the characters and trying to get anybody that hasn't seen it before to kind of catch up. So every time they have a scene where they go to the fridge, like two characters might go to like a fridge and they open up the refrigerator and one pulls out a Coke and says, "Remember that time that we became best friends with that Coke back, about 3 years ago?" And you just, someone who's watched the show, you just kind of roll your eyes because they're just kind of like beating you over the head with stuff. And I kind of get why they have to do that, but it doesn't make it any better. It's still, that part, it just was really irritating. There's a lot of parts in that first section where they are parodying Stranger Things. It's like, well, this is what a character on Stranger Things would say. You just get that feeling. But there comes a point where they get through with that, about 45 minutes in, and they get to the point of what the show is really kind of trying to do, or they start to get to that point where they bring up the mystery. They have a little bit of clue finding. They have a little bit of teamwork. They have a little bit of this and that. And the acting all of a sudden goes from pretty meh to pretty all right. You know, you can tell that like the actors were like back in their element, that they were saying lines that they should be saying, that they thought they were saying lines they should be saying. And I was like, okay, I kind of remember what I like about this show. Start episode 2. There's a character that pulls out, spoilers, there's a character that pulls out a bottle of wine. And I was like, I have a bottle of wine. That sounds like a good idea. And so I watched the.
You're easily influenced. Okay.
I'm very
roger
easily
that.
influenced. I was already thinking about it, but they definitely pushed me over the edge. So I pulled out a bottle of wine, and I
They drove you to drink. Okay, got it.
pretty much Stranger Things is dragging me to drink, and so I end up finishing that before the last episode. So that's like kind of 3 straight hours, I guess, of wine drinking and Stranger Things, and I have to say it was definitely partly because of the wine, but it was from that second episode, or from that toward the end of the first episode, where they really started to get back into what the show's point is, and it kind of hit its stride, and I was like, all right, I'm back. Like I get it. It's never gonna be, you know, the season 1 vibes again, but I was kind of reminded of what the story was and what the point was, because I'd kind of forgotten. I was like, okay, yeah, I do kind of want to see this, you know. I did kind of want to know how all this is going to end up. I think that the show it has too many characters. I don't know how many people realize that or agree with that, but I was talking to some other people this week at work who watch it, and we agreed that the show has too many characters. That being said, they do a really good job juggling all those characters, because they definitely have too many, and they definitely find something for pretty much everybody to do. And there's something that happens in this first batch of episodes that did make me very, very glad, I would say. They have a reveal that they have been holding on to for basically the beginning of the show, like basically since season 1. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, wow, I'm really glad that they. I mean, for any other faults that the show has, which there are plenty, I was like, okay, they at least stuck to their guns and utilized restraint and made this a pretty good little payoff. And I think there's probably going to be some more later, but yeah. So all in all, it's good that it's back. I'm enjoying it. I wish things were different with the way that it's being rolled out, but it is what it is. And yeah, I'm definitely excited for the next batch of episodes, and I'll definitely be excited for the finale. But yeah, it's definitely one of those shows that, like, it's a nostalgia bait show, but it works, I guess. Like, it's doing what it's trying to do, which is make you feel nostalgia for like a simpler time, and also for the show itself. I think that's kind of where it's come back to, sort of full circle, is being nostalgic for like the way the show was, or maybe watching these kids kind of grow up a little bit, you know, sporadically since 2016. Yeah. So I'm excited for the next batch, and I will weigh back in whenever that comes out.
All right. Yeah. I mean, most mediocre things are better when you're drinking. So I can see why that would be. And usually, if you've been drinking, you usually wax poetically about things and you're more accepting of garbage. So, yes, Stranger Things, a must see with alcohol. Probably also better with friends. Um, but if you are drinking alone, then I suppose you could just
I,
turn
I,
on
I,
Stranger Things.
I do feel like it'd be pretty cool to have like a watch party with people who had watched this from the beginning. A 4 hour or whatever 5 hour watch party for it would be pretty tough to do. That'd be a pretty long Saturday. Um,
Like The
but
Watchmen, man, all over again.
just like the Watchmen
Uh,
all over again. But
so
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's one of those things I need to get past the finale to have a super clear view of it. But I'm enjoying it for now.
I would like to care about it. I used to care about the series. They kind of dropped, but for no real reason. It just season 3 really sucked, and then season 4 just couldn't. I just couldn't be bothered to put in the time. Like, it's not that long of a show. I've already made it to 3 seasons. I'm like, I could finish. I could just continue with 4, but I'm like, I'm most definitely not going to do anything until I hear uh, the outcome of this, whether it's good or bad. Because if it's bad, then I'm not even going to waste my time with a season 4. But
I
if it's
I,
at least okay, the payoff by the end of it is acceptable. Then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm
I
not going to do a Game of Thrones or How I Met Your Mother.
I
Like,
don't
nope.
think that you should watch it. From what I know about you, I don't think that you're really going to enjoy it. And if you do watch it and you want to hate watch it, then please wait until like March, just so I can bask in it for like a little while, because I really don't think that this is up your alley anymore. I think the problems that there are with it would just bother you too much. It's
So
um,
what I'll do is I'll wait for right before the last episodes drop, and I'll hate watch the season 4, and then as whatever right before we record, I'll make sure to finish up the most current episodes while being half in the bag, and then I can really just go ham on it, and then I'll pull out my spreadsheet and be like, "This is what's wrong with the series, and I can't believe you like it." No, I mean, like I said, it could be great, and honestly, if it is, that's that all the better
I
for it.
mean, it's
Uh,
more. I mean, it's more of season 3 and 4. That if you didn't like that, then this is just more of that. So you're
was season 3, I can't remember which was season 3 when the, 11 did the, like, her road trip?
that was 2, and I hated that as well.
Okay, so then maybe alright, so it's 2 that I hated. 3 was the mall, and I really don't remember too much about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, I just remember it being not particularly great, but, once again, season 4, it wasn't really the fact that I disliked season 4, it's just it took me a little bit longer to get into, and I think enough time had passed that I
Mm.
remember being like, "Wait a minute, that, I don't know, Max's brother," I'm like, he was that Red Ranger in the new in the Power Rangers movie
Oh,
that
dang.
happened a while back. I'm like, "Yeah," I'm like, "That's great." That actually made me more interested, but, once again, it was hard for me to get into it. I mean, season 4 was when the one kid came back from summer camp, and he tried making the radio, right? Was that that?
I think that's season 3, because season 4 they kind of follow up on what's going on there. Yeah, yeah.
And once again, I like, yeah, it's one of those things that, like, yeah, I originally liked it. It was a great nostalgia bait. I can see that. It's just unfortunately, unless if it comes out to be pretty solid, I'm not going to bother rolling the dice on that until until it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I hope for you in the
I
end,
I
it's
don't. I
interesting.
mean, if I had to guess, knock on wood, you know, if I had to guess, I would say that they are not going to Game of Thrones it. That it's not going to be that bad. Um, but I think they're going to play it. I mean, I think they're going to play it safe. It is a bit of a Marvel movie now, So I think they're just going to play it safe and just end it the way that they're going to do some things, but they're going to end it pretty cleanly, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see now. You've gathered some news for us, not a whole lot, but not a lot's been going down. But what have you gotten for us today?
Yeah, there's not too much. There's some stuff that I could have pulled, but I was like, it's sort of whatever. But the big news that there is that Netflix is going to buy WB. So a while ago, WB started taking on suitors and callers to make bids to buy them. They were kind of just, I forget what triggered it. I feel like somebody was talking about buying them, and so they're like, oh well, let's kind of see how this really goes. And so Paramount, I heard, was in the lead for that, and Paramount may have something to say about all this before it's said and done. But for now, it appears that Netflix is made an offer and WB has agreed. And so Netflix is planning to buy WB for $82.7 billion in a deal that is planned to close in Q3 of 2026, so somewhere between July and September or so of next year. And this is pretty big. It's kind of hard to really think about all the ways that it's going to affect things. It's going to bring in all the WB movies, obviously, but also HBO Max stuff is going to theoretically be on Netflix. They're already on one streaming platform. It's going to put all that under Netflix, which is going to be pretty freaking wild, honestly. I mean, I already have both of those, and those are kind of the first two that I check when I'm looking for something new to watch, that I don't already have something planned. So that's going to be kind of interesting. It's almost certainly going to raise the price of Netflix, but there's a big library for HBO, so anybody that wants to go back and watch, all those great old HBO shows and anything that HBO is going to put out, that's good. Last of Us, or I'm trying to think of like whatever else they have. That's going to be on Netflix, and so it's kind of wild. It's kind of earth shaking, and I just I don't know. Like, what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the HBO stuff, but I know. So it's really weird because yes, we all know Netflix is huge, but it's hard to see them buying a legacy company like WB.
Yeah.
Uh, and so you think if anyone buys them, it'd be one of their other competitors like Disney essentially. It just Disney is gonna you just assume Disney owns it all then. Um, but when it comes to like the gaming space, I mean, WB makes like Batman, like the games, they're Rocksteady,
Mhm.
and then Avalanche, which is with the Harry Potter stuff. You have NetherRealm Studios, who do the Mortal Kombat, and you have a lot of classics in there too. Like, so it's like WB has a lot of history,
Yeah,
and it's really interesting to see that Netflix would be acquiring all that.
it is pretty wild. I didn't think about the video game aspects of it, but Netflix has been trying to get into video games more or less, for a while. And they just haven't had enough firepower to really be able to do it. They didn't want to build it from the ground up. So them buying WB and getting Avalanche and all those pretty dang good studios is going to set them up to, just already have that. What is uh, interesting, I guess. Um, I guess my hope is that Netflix will buy them and then just let them sort of exist as they already do. I kind of think that's probably what they'll do with the video game stuff, at least for a while. What worries me is that I've already on this podcast complained many times about the Netflix effect on movies and shows and how everything just looks the same. and looks very boring, and they repeat all of the dialogue just describes what the character is physically doing, um, and they intentionally write it that way. Like there's documentation of that being said. We want you to write it this way, which is terrible
Uh,
writing.
they've killed lighting in TV and movies. It's all flat, full bake lighting. There's very little shadowing. It's minimalist backgrounds because a lot of people who watch on phones or smaller devices uh, aren't going to pay attention to the details. They need that minimalist thing, especially when you're watching it on the toilet or something like that, or
On the
just a
bus.
second screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to be fully engrossed in the epic scope of the thing. So it's kind of scary. It's like
Yeah.
AI, right? It's like how badly are you going to ruin this for
Yeah,
us?
yeah, that's sort of my thing is like, well, we're gonna have the library, the WB library is gonna be pretty great to, one-stop shop for Netflix. Even though Netflix is going to go up, I mean, the base package is probably gonna be $20 at least. I don't know what it is right now. But it's it, it'll be okay for a year or two, but after that, things are going to start to go the Netflix way. I'm pretty sure. I hope not, and but I am pretty sure they're going to start to go the Netflix way, and we're going to get more and more Netflix movies and shows in that style, and it's probably going to make things basically worse. I think in a lot of ways. And basically, everything's going to be divided up between Disney and Netflix. The Paramount still exists, and they might try to sue or something. Somebody, I mean, I think it was kind of a joke, but Paramount was apparently heavily involved in this deal. Involved in trying to get WB, and they really kind of needed WB in a lot of ways because Netflix is a juggernaut. Disney already bought Fox and has Hulu and ESPN and stuff like that. So, they Paramount's going to have to find somebody to dance with here soon. Um, but in the next 10 years, it wouldn't surprise me if it's really just Netflix and Disney, and then anybody else that wants to start a movie or a movie company or make a studio or whatever is going to basically have to start off of YouTube until they get big enough to get bought by like one of the others. Um,
Amazon's going to buy Paramount.
Amazon Paramount will probably have a partnership. Yeah, that's probably the thing. And at that point, Disney is definitely not any better in terms of filming things with contrast and with reasonable, sensible writing and dialogue. So yeah, I mean, I hate to be like all black pill about it, but you know, it makes me very nervous. Also because like whether you like or dislike Stranger Things, it is the flagship show of Netflix, and it's coming to an end, and they don't really have any other flagship shows that I can think of off the top of my head right now. Like shows that are like the whole country's watching, or the whole segment of society where is at least excited about them. And I feel like they want it that way. I feel like they don't want, like, there's just too much pressure on a show and too much risk involved. And so my guess is that they don't want that. And so I think we're just going to get bland stuff after Stranger Things ends and Netflix buys WB. But I hope I'm wrong.
Well, just remember, your subscription helped fund this, so it's your fault.
Yeah, um, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, I am like like 0.0000001%, 0.33 dollars percent to blame for this, but it's like I don't know, like there's not really a way around it, you know. I don't,
Piracy. Piracy is the way. Or
piracy.
just give up on it. Give up on.
Hypothetically, you mean, Joe? You mean to say
No.
hypothetically?
I mean, straight piracy. High seas and everything. I mean,
I'm gonna have to
yeah.
bleep that. I'm gonna have to bleep that
You're,
out.
you're gonna you're gonna be the next. I'm calling it now. it's like Nick is going to be the next Pirate Bay, Napster equivalent, uh, based out of Texas.
You
You know,
know,
he has all freedom.
hypothetically, if I was a criminal, that is what I would think is every time one of these things happen, I would think if I was a criminal, I would think, oh yeah, I can just always go pirate something. I can just always pirate this. I mean, like all I need is an internet connection and a VPN, and that's I don't have to deal with any of this stuff. But that's not really going to solve the problem, which is because I don't mind paying. I don't mind one company. I don't even mind like one or two companies really. I mean, politically, it's not a good thing, but
You love monopolies. That's what I just heard. I heard
but
you're a fan of monopolies.
but I do love monopolies. But I wouldn't mind everything being a monopoly. Um, from a purely entertainment standpoint. Uh, it's just I know that everything is going to end up being so homogenous and like it's all this. It's all going to be the same show, eventually. But things like this have happened in the past, and every time it does, I mean, things kind of tend to converge. But it there's always room for indie studios. There's always room for indie creators, and when there's a big empire like this, there tends to be a lot of rebels, and that's where a lot of like the best stuff is always going to come out of is the wild west of whatever the industry is. So that's kind of where I'm hopeful. But it's gonna get worse before it gets better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say. Once again, it's if you look at the gaming industry, we know how well it turned out that Microsoft owns everything, or when EA bought everything. Those turn out great after acquisitions, and you know, Disney's really done a bang up job with Star Wars. So,
Oh
uh,
man.
yeah. So once again, we'll see how wonderful Netflix helms this thing. And yes, I'm totally on the side of negativity on this because once again, uh, based off of track records of different things. But hey, if I don't know, the fact that Netflix kept Stranger Things to season 5
It's pretty
is
wild.
impressive on its own. I mean, now they've killed so many good shows early that now it's been long enough that they can reboot all their old franchises
Oh man.
and do that again.
Yeah,
Because it's
I
time
mean,
for them to go to a reboot track.
oh, that's what's going to happen in 10 years. They're going to have Netflix remake and they're just going to remake the whole thing. And it's going to be like nostalgia on nostalgia on nostalgia, like a Ouroboros of nostalgia. Oh,
Dude,
man.
we end up mentioning Ouroboros like almost every other episode at this point.
We have
Okay,
mentioned at least two in a row. Yeah.
so all right, well, it's let's get on from this sad state of affairs and what other news topics you
All
got
right.
for us?
Let's spin the chamber. All right. Next up, this is sort of a vague news story, but I wanted to kind of announce that Metroid Prime 4 came out. People are playing it. Uh, Video Games Chronicle had a pretty meh review. They had like a 3 stars out of 5. So, but that's not the news story. The news story is that there's a lot of people who are saying that Metroid Prime 4 looks ugly. And they show screenshots. These screenshots are definitely cherry picked. So I did a little bit of digging into it, and basically, there there are two sides to this, and this is from a Kotaku article that I pulled from, and then I did some more digging to kind of come up with what's going on. But I think they actually talk about this too. But basically, there is the levels in this game are apparently very well designed, beautiful, good art design, and all that stuff, art direction. And then there is an open world sort of I don't just want to call it a hub, but like there's like an open world where you have to travel between the levels, and this open world looks really bad. Like that's where the screenshot comparisons of old games are coming from, where they're like showing like this is a game that came out in 2008 and it looks better than Metroid Prime 4. And there's a game that came out in 2015 and it looks better than Metroid Prime 4. and they're right. I mean, like the the traveling between levels in this game or between missions or whatever. I'm not really familiar with it because I haven't played it, but the travel between is through a desert and there's just nothing going on. It just is incredibly bland. Um, and so that's kind of what people are pointing at. Seems like some of the reviewers are also saying that is definitely a problem with the game as well. And then one other thing that I'm not going to get into because I too much at least because I didn't read about it very much, but there's an amiibo as well that costs $30 and it allows you to turn the radio on your motorcycle. Um, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what the full story of that is, but from what I'm hearing, that sounds pretty crappy, Nintendo. But yeah,
Yeah, that's some let's gate our stuff, right out the gate. I was like, I understand if it unlocks something as far as if it was a real DLC, but the fact that you cut off features of your game, um, and it's not surprising that the hubs have looked ugly since the earlier showings. So that's the kind of a lot of people are just going like, well, we'll see and wait. We'll see when it officially comes out because some of the clips are like, this is just a bland desert or something. But also, people kind of had similar arguments, I think, with Sonic Frontier,
mm.
because having too much open space and not really enough things to do in it. Uh, Maybe these games shouldn't necessarily be considered like open world, but they're trying to make it more grand and expansive. So I can understand why that would happen. Also, you can only do so much on the Switch. Granted, they have the new upscaling technology. Uh, but overall, it's that people's reception of Metroid Prime 4 is positive. It seems to be like a solid B for a lot of people, and you know what? That's that's okay. I mean, that's still a good time. So despite it having some spots that may not look the best and maybe boring as heck if it's not enough music in the background, because you're not going to buy an amiibo.
Because like
Uh,
that's what they said is like you have to drive around in silence in the desert. In like so you're doubling down on the worst part of the game with by making it worse because you didn't buy an amiibo. I don't know. That just seems very. It's like you had all this time, Nintendo, like, and then you remade the
yeah,
game.
they planned it very well. They planned it per Nintendo's new MO, uh, to say, screw the customer base, give us your money, and thank you. But no, thank you. Just give us your money. You stupid pieces of crap. I think that's the way it was meant to be translated. In reality, they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But
But it's
that's the way I
all
like it.
it's all the Moss form in Japanese, so it's very polite. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, like I've heard. I mean, Donkey Kong, the Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong Bonanza, is supposed to be really great. So maybe one day when I buy a Switch, after there's 5 games to play, I'll be able to tell you whether or not I agree.
all right. Well, that's it for Nintendo news. What else we got?
Okay, so one last thing. This is near and dear to our hearts, but Mortal Kombat's Shang Tsung, uh, the actor Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, has passed away at the age of 75. So I had only had a little bit of experience with Mortal Kombat, and I didn't get to watch. I never got to watch the movie. I was too young and it was too violent whenever it came out for me. But it definitely influenced a lot of things, and I think you had a bit of a closer relationship to that. Is that right?
Well, I mean, they were in so many things growing up. They were kind of like there's only a handful of Asian roles given out, especially back in the early
And
90s.
he was
Okay.
very Asian, yes.
And he did such a good job of looking the part of a villain. Uh, Unfortunately, he did pass away due to a stroke. It looked like, at least that's what I read. And but for example, getting to be in showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee doesn't have a huge library under their belt, but that was one of them. And plus also the female lead was Tia Carrera. Like so, a very 90s movie. Very, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty great. But like a lot of the things you might look at, there's a lot of cheesy roles that they were in. You're looking at what's that? Uh, Another Dolph Lundgren. Was it Bridges of Dragons or Bridge of Dragons? And it was like, you know, yeah, or like the Last Emperor, which is a classic. I mean, or Rising Sun, Wesley Snipes. I mean, and Sean Connery. Sean Connery pretending to be like part of connected with the Asian or like the Yakuza. Like it was so weird. It was, anyways. Uh, Shang Tsung being, of course, the quintessential part of with Mortal Kombat and forever defining Shang Tsung's character. Uh, I know they want like at the time, the developers were like, "Well, we're gonna try to separate ourselves from this Mortal Kombat movie," like, but everyone else, like any kid at that time, when you see the game Mortal Kombat, you would think to yourself out loud the opening scream of Mortal Kombat, and that's that's how it forever is. And you know what? It's never too late to watch Mortal Kombat. It still holds up. It is a great spin off of Enter the Dragon. Uh, and you know what? You can even watch it sober, and it's still a great movie. But if you would like to partake in wine or a beverage of your choice, then by all means, I guarantee any day of the week it's better than Stranger Things. Any season, any episode, I'll fight anyone for that, or I'll drink while watching this with them. So yeah, that's how I feel. It's really it really is. It's like I don't actually know if they've done anything in the more recent years. I know they've been doing bit parts at least, and I know was that didn't they do a Tekken movie like that happened a while back? But
Hmm.
it's just I completely missed that. But it was for me, it was they were a staple in a lot of movies growing up, and not being able to see a lot of variation between. It's like voice actors, right? There's only so many uh, Asian actors to go around, especially in early '90s Hollywood.
Mhm.
So it is sad to see them go, and thoughts and well, wishes for all the family. Uh, but if I think there's enough good movies out. If you don't know his library, go ahead, check it out now because like I said, some of that stuff is some great, just good, solid, good movies and it's good stuff, but also some really good campy stuff. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself with some good camp.
Yeah.
So,
Camp, camp, camp lasts forever.
all right. Well, that's it for the news. If you made it to the end, we appreciate it. Thank you. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
Um, whenever you are dealing with copyright infringement, like I am with the Trump administration, you want to make sure that you have the best lawyers and those and that you pay them in Skittles. That's one thing people don't usually know, but all lawyers love Skittles.
Oh, I thought you meant you were just going to try to throw them at Trump and the administration. I was like, that's a bold decision.
No, that's
Uh,
that's assault. I'm not going to do that.
Throw it at the ground, feed them like pigeons. No, the other option I have is if you just happen to have like a couple $1 million lying around, donate and pledge to whatever foundations they have. They happen to look the other way, just like they do with Jensen Wong. So yeah, there's always that option too. All right, guys. Well, this has been ADP. Until next time, y'all take it easy.
Bye.